Commander Elena Santos stood at the observation deck of the International Space Station Harmony, watching the massive Archean vessel emerge from hyperspace. The alien ship's crystalline structure caught the sunlight, creating prismatic patterns across Earth's atmosphere. 6 months had passed since humanity's first contact with the Archean collective, and something about their diplomatic overtures had never sat right with her. "Commander, they're hailing us again." Lieutenant Park's voice crackled through her earpiece. "The Archean ambassador requests your presence for the final protocol signing." Elena took a deep breath, straightening her United Earth Defense Force uniform. "Acknowledged. Inform them I'll be boarding their shuttle in 10 minutes." She turned away from the viewport, her reflection showing a stern-faced woman in her 40s, dark hair streaked with premature gray, a testament to 20 years of military service. The Archean diplomatic shuttle looked more like an art installation than a spacecraft, its transparent hull revealing intricate machinery that seemed to defy physics. As Elena boarded, Ambassador Rixtel greeted her with what passed for a smile among his species, a slight shimmer of his iridescent scales. "Commander Santos, how pleasant to see you again." Rixtel's translator rendered his clicking speech into smooth English. "I trust you've reviewed the final terms of our protective custody agreement." Helena kept her expression neutral, though the phrase protective custody made her skin crawl. "I have, Ambassador, though I must once again express Earth's position that such an agreement is unnecessary. We are quite capable of managing our own affairs." The ambassador's scales rippled in what Elena had learned was amusement. "Come now, Commander. We've observed your civilization's development. While impressive for your age, you've barely mastered crude fission power. The galaxy is vast and dangerous. The Archean collective merely wishes to ensure Earth's safety until you're ready for true interstellar society." They entered the Archean ship's conference chamber, a cavernous room where walls seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Other Archean officials waited around a floating holographic display, showing Earth from orbit. Elena noticed how they positioned themselves above her, their hover chairs raising them just slightly higher than human eye level. "Before we proceed," Elena said, "I'd like to clarify something about the agreement's military provisions." She pulled out a small datapad, purposefully choosing older technology. Section 7 appears to require the dismantling of Earth's defensive capabilities. Rixtel's scales flickered with what might have been impatience, merely a precaution. "Your species has a rather volatile history. We wouldn't want any unfortunate accidents with your nuclear arsenals." Elena tapped her datapad, apparently studying it intently. In reality, she was confirming what the hidden quantum sensors in her uniform had detected. The Archeans had activated some form of containment field around the chamber. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. "I see," she said slowly. "And I assume the particle beam emitters your ships have been positioning around our planet are also just precautionary." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Rixtel's scales shifted to a darker hue. "You weren't supposed to be able to detect those." His translator still made his voice sound pleasant, but the clicking undertone had become sharper. Elena smiled thinly. "We're full of surprises. This isn't going to work, Ambassador. Earth rejects your offer of protection." "I'm afraid you misunderstand, Commander." Rixtel rose higher in his hover chair, all pretense of diplomacy vanishing. "This isn't an offer. Your species has proven too aggressive to be allowed unfettered development. The containment protocols have already begun. Around Earth, dozens of Archean ships decloaked, their weapon systems powering up." Elena watched the holographic display, her expression unchanging. "Interesting choice," she said quietly. "Tell me, Ambassador, did any of your extensive observations reveal why humanity is the only known species to routinely practice military deception?" Rixtel paused. "What?" "We call it hiding our capabilities." Elena's hand moved to her collar insignia. "You've spent 6 months studying what we wanted you to see: old fission plants, primitive rockets, outdated defense systems." She pressed the insignia, which emitted a brief pulse. Throughout the ship, Holographic displays flickered. Would you like to see what we've been hiding? The chamber's displays suddenly showed new images. Dozens of previously invisible human vessels emerging from behind quantum stealth fields. Ships that, by all Arxian understanding of human technology, shouldn't exist for another century. Impossible, Rixtel whispered, his scales paling. Your species couldn't possibly have mastered quantum mechanics decades ago, developed stable fusion drives, created functional stealth systems. Elena shook her head. Ambassador, humanity learned long ago that the best way to survive is to never show your full hand. You assumed our technological development followed your species' linear path. That was your first mistake. Warning alarms began blaring throughout the Arxian vessel. Elena's translator rendered the automated announcements. Unknown energy signatures detected. Defense systems not responding. Navigation systems compromised. What have you done? Rixtel demanded, his translator struggling to keep up with his agitated clicking. Nothing yet. This is just a demonstration. Elena straightened her uniform. Here are Earth's terms. You will withdraw your ships. You will acknowledge Earth's sovereignty. And you will remember that appearances can be deceiving. Otherwise, you'll learn exactly why humanity's volatile history makes us so good at warfare. The chamber fell silent except for the continuing alarms. Elena could see the calculations running behind Rixtel's multifaceted eyes. The realization that they had severely underestimated humanity's capabilities and resolve. The collective will not forget this duplicity, he finally said. Good. Elena turned to leave. That's exactly what we're counting on. Sometimes the best defense isn't a strong shield, Ambassador. It's making sure potential enemies think twice before attacking at all. As she walked out, leaving the Arxians to their chaos, Elena sent a brief encoded message to Earth Command. Phase 1 complete. They took the bait. Proceeding with Operation Hidden Hand. The real game was just beginning, and humanity had been preparing for it for a very long time. Dr. James Chen's fingers danced across the holographic interface, sifting through streams of intercepted Arxian data. The quantum computing lab deep beneath the Sierra Nevada mountains hummed with energy as billions of calculations processed every second. 3 weeks had passed since the confrontation in orbit, and the Arxians had retreated to the edge of the solar system, maintaining what they called a quarantine line. They're still waiting for us to do something stupid, he muttered, taking a sip from his long cold coffee. The wall of displays surrounding his workstation showed real-time analysis of Arxian communications, ship movements, and energy signatures, always expecting the primitive humans to react with brute force. That's because they still don't understand us, said a familiar voice. James turned to see Commander Santos entering the lab, her uniform now bearing the insignia of Earth Defense Intelligence. What have you found, Doctor? James gestured at the central display, where a complex network diagram pulsed with activity. Something fascinating, Commander. The Arxians don't just use standardized technology. They're completely dependent on it. Their entire civilization runs on what they call the collective protocol. He brought up a series of captured data packets, their encryption stripped away by quantum algorithms. Every ship, every weapon, every piece of their infrastructure operates on the same fundamental coding architecture. It's elegant, highly efficient, and a massive vulnerability. Elena finished, studying the displays with intense interest. Exactly. James highlighted specific sections of code. They achieved their technological advancement through perfect standardization. Everything interconnected, everything following the same rules. They'd probably think it's one of their greatest strengths. Elena moved closer to the display, her expression thoughtful. And you can break it? James smiled, though there was little humor in it. Commander, we already have. Operation Ghost isn't just about gathering intelligence. We've been inserting quantum encrypted backdoors into their networks for weeks. Every time they scan us, every transmission they send, every piece of data they collect, they're actually letting us deeper into their systems. The display shifted to show a real-time map of Archean space. Countless nodes of light represented their ships, stations, and colonies, all interconnected by the same standardized protocols. Small red dots began appearing throughout the network, representing successfully compromised systems. They're so convinced of their technological superiority that they haven't even noticed, James continued. Their cybersecurity is focused on threats they understand. Brute force attacks, conventional hacking attempts. But our quantum infiltration methods operate on principles they haven't even discovered yet. Elena watched the red dots multiply across the display. How much of their network have we penetrated? As of this morning, James brought up a status report. Approximately 63% of all major systems, their military command and control, planetary defense grids, even their industrial infrastructure, all compromised. Give us another 2 weeks, and we'll have complete access. And they still think we're just sitting here, licking our wounds, and preparing for some kind of conventional military response, Elena said, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. What about the quantum entanglement countermeasures? James switched to another display, showing a complex quantum simulation, ready for deployment. The moment we activate the system, every compromised node will simultaneously receive new quantum-encrypted commands. Their entire network will be speaking a different language, and their ships won't be able to communicate with each other. Perfect. Elena studied the data for a moment longer. The Archean High Command sent another ultimatum this morning. They're demanding our immediate surrender and acceptance of their protection. They're giving us 48 hours to comply. James leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his disheveled hair. Let me guess. After that, they're planning to demonstrate their military might. According to our intelligence, they're preparing a limited demonstration of their orbital defense capabilities, something to show us the futility of resistance. Elena's smile held no warmth. They're planning to target some of our older military installations, the ones we let them find, while our actual defense grid remains hidden behind quantum fields. James nodded. What are your orders, Commander? Elena turned to face him fully. Continue Operation Ghost. Let them think their deadline means something. In the meantime, I want you to prepare a complete systems takeover package. When they make their move, we're going to show them exactly what happens when you back humanity into a corner. There's something else you should see, James said, pulling up a new set of data. We've detected unusual energy signatures from their fleet. They're clustering their ships in a formation we haven't seen before. The display showed dozens of Archean vessels arranging themselves in a complex geometric pattern. Energy readings suggested they were linking their systems together in some kind of synchronized network. They're preparing something big, Elena observed. Analysis. It looks like they're creating a massive, synchronized weapons platform. By linking their ships together, they can combine their firepower into a single devastating beam. James highlighted the energy calculations. If they successfully deploy this, it could theoretically punch through any conventional defensive shield. Elena studied the formation for a long moment. They're still thinking in terms of raw power. Update the infiltration priorities. I want their synchronized weapons grid compromised before they can bring it online. Already on it, James replied, his fingers flying across the interface. But Commander, what if this is just the beginning? What if they have other technologies they haven't revealed yet? Then we'll adapt, just like we always have. Elena's voice carried absolute conviction. Humanity didn't survive and thrive by being the strongest, Doctor. We did it by being the most adaptable, the most innovative, and, she smiled grimly, the most paranoid species in the galaxy. As if to emphasize her point, new alerts began flashing across the displays. The Archean fleet was moving, their synchronized weapon platform nearly complete. They were preparing to show humanity the price of defiance. They had no idea they were about to learn that lesson themselves. Captain Sarah O'Neill watched the holographic display as her ship, the ISS Nightshade, glided silently through Archean space. The vessel's quantum stealth systems rendered it completely invisible, not just to sensors, but to the very fabric of space-time itself. The massive Archean shipyard loomed ahead, its crystalline structures gleaming under the light of 3 suns. "Status report," she whispered, though there was no need for silence in space. Old habits from submarine duty died hard. Quantum field stability at 100%. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from his station. "We're running dark and silent. The Archeans have no idea we're here." Sarah nodded, her green eyes reflecting the shimmer of holographic data streams. The Nightshade was one of 12 stealth vessels deployed throughout Archean space, each carrying a payload that would change the course of this conflict. She thought back to her briefing with Commander Santos 3 days ago. "Remember," Elena had said, "this isn't about destroying their capabilities. It's about showing them the fundamental flaw in their thinking. Every society that achieves interstellar travel assumes they've reached the peak of technological evolution. The Archeans are about to learn otherwise." The Nightshade's sensors detected a surge of activity from the shipyard. A new vessel was launching, another addition to the fleet gathering for their demonstration against Earth. Sarah watched as the Archean ship joined its brethren, its systems automatically synchronizing with their network. "They're like clockwork," Lieutenant Ming commented from the tactical station. "Every ship, every system, perfectly coordinated." "That's their weakness," Sarah replied, moving to the central command podium. "Perfect standardization means perfect predictability." "Status of our package. Quantum virus is primed and ready," Rodriguez reported. "Dr. Chen's code is like nothing I've ever seen. Once we upload it to their network, it'll spread through their entire civilization in microseconds." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The virus wasn't designed to destroy. That would be too obvious, too expected. Instead, it would lie dormant in their systems, waiting for the signal to subtly alter their standardized protocols. When activated, every Archean ship, weapon, and computer would suddenly find itself speaking a slightly different language than its neighbors. "New contact," Ming announced suddenly. "Archean patrol vessel on an irregular course. They're sweeping the area with some kind of new detection system." Sarah straightened. "Analysis. They're using quantum resonance scanning," Rodriguez reported, his fingers dancing across his console. "They're looking for distortions in spacetime itself. Clever bastards. They must suspect something after all." "Time to show them why humanity's stealth technology is special," Sarah said. "Initiate metamorphic field adaptation." The Nightshade's quantum stealth field shifted, its properties changing at the subatomic level. Unlike the Archeans' rigid, standardized systems, human technology was designed to evolve, to adapt in real time to new threats. The patrol vessel's scans passed harmlessly through them, finding nothing but empty space. "Package delivery window is closing," Ming reported. "If we're going to do this, it needs to be now." Sarah studied the tactical display, watching the patrol vessel's search pattern. There would never be a perfect moment. Another lesson humanity had learned through centuries of warfare. Sometimes you had to create your own opportunities. "Begin terminal approach," she ordered. "Prepare for quantum burst transmission." The Nightshade moved silently through space, its advanced propulsion system leaving no trace of its passage. They glided to within 1,000 kilometers of the shipyard's main control hub, close enough for their quantum transmission to be instantaneous and untraceable. "Ready on your mark, Captain," Rodriguez said quietly. Sarah took a deep breath. Somewhere out there, 11 other stealth ships were in similar positions near other critical Archean installations. The timing had to be perfect, a synchronized attack that would demonstrate humanity's true capabilities. "Send it." A pulse of quantum-encrypted data shot from the Nightshade, crossing the void in an instant. The shipyard systems absorbed it unknowingly, their standardized security protocols seeing nothing but routine network traffic. In that moment, the first phase of humanity's real response was complete. "Package delivered," Rodriguez confirmed. "No signs of detection. Quantum virus is integrating with their systems. Confirmation received. All 12 targets successfully infected. "Now we wait," Sarah said, watching as the patrol vessel continued its futile search. "How long until they begin their demonstration against Earth?" "Based on intercepted communications, 14 hours, Ming reported. "They're still gathering their fleet. The synchronized weapon platform is nearly complete." Sarah nodded, already plotting their exit vector. "Send word to command. Operation Weatweaver is complete. All pieces are in place." As the Nightshade began its careful withdrawal, Sarah thought about the Arxians' mighty fleet, their synchronized weapons, their unshakable belief in their technological superiority. They had no idea that humanity had just woven a web through their entire civilization, a web that would show them the true meaning of technological advancement. "You know what the Arxians' biggest mistake was?" she asked her bridge crew. "They assumed that because we didn't show our true capabilities, we didn't have them. They never stopped to ask why a species smart enough to achieve spaceflight would deliberately appear less advanced than they are. They're about to find out," Rodriguez said with a grim smile. "Yes," Sarah agreed, watching the last of the Arxian ships join their gathering fleet. "They certainly are." High Commander Zelthor of the Arxian Collective stood aboard his flagship's command center, watching with satisfaction as the massive synchronized weapon platform took its final form. 500 of their most powerful warships, arranged in a perfect geometric pattern, their systems linked in flawless harmony. The demonstration would begin in exactly 1 hour, and the primitive humans would finally understand their place in the galaxy. "All ships report ready, High Commander," his executive officer announced. "The targeting coordinates for Earth's primitive defense installations have been distributed through the network. Our synchronized strike will disable their military capabilities with surgical precision." Zelthor's scales rippled with pleasure. "Excellent. Send the final warning to their leaders. Let them know that resistance will only bring more severe." The command center's displays suddenly flickered. For a fraction of a second, every screen showed the same symbol, a stylized human eye enclosed in a geometric pattern. Then everything returned to normal. "What was that?" Zelthor demanded. "Unknown, High Commander. Running diagnostic protocols." The executive officer's scales paled. "Sir, something's wrong. The network, it's not responding correctly." Across the synchronized fleet, chaos erupted. Ships that had been in perfect formation began drifting out of alignment as their navigation systems received conflicting commands. Weapons platforms that had been charging in harmony suddenly found themselves operating on slightly different frequencies. In the quantum computing lab beneath the Sierra Nevada mountains, Dr. James Chen watched the disruption unfold on his displays. Commander Santos stood beside him, her expression intense. "Quantum virus activated," he reported. "Phase 1 complete. Their standardized protocols are now speaking 500 slightly different languages. Their attempts to resynchronize are only making it worse." Elena nodded. "Initiate Phase 2. Throughout Arxian space, the dormant programs planted by the stealth ships weeks ago came alive. The Arxians' mighty industrial complexes, their automated defense systems, their very infrastructure began operating on corrupted protocols. Not enough to shut down completely. That would be too obvious. Instead, subtle errors crept into every system, cascading through their perfectly standardized network. Aboard the Nightshade, now positioned safely at the edge of the conflict zone, Captain Sarah O'Neill watched the Arxian fleet's formation collapse. "Their synchronized weapon platform is failing," Lieutenant Ming reported with satisfaction. "They can't maintain the energy alignment with their systems in chaos. If they try to fire now, they'll tear their own ships apart." Sarah finished. "Signal the rest of the Ghost Fleet. Begin Phase 3. Across the solar system, dozens of previously invisible human vessels decloaked. But these weren't warships. They were electronic warfare platforms, each broadcasting signals that further confused and disrupted the Arxians' compromised networks. On his flagship, Zelthor watched in horror as his mighty fleet fell into disarray. "Impossible. How are they doing this? Where are these signals coming from? High Commander. His tactical officer's voice was sharp with panic. We're detecting new energy signatures everywhere. They're not ships. I don't know what they are. The human vessels were deploying quantum field generators, technology the Arxians had thought impossible for centuries to come. The devices created localized distortions in space-time itself, making it impossible for the Arxian ships to accurately target anything. In the Sierra Nevada facility, James checked his readings. Quantum field network is stable. Their targeting systems are completely blind. They're firing at shadows and echoes now. Elena stepped forward, activating a direct communication channel to the Arxian flagship. The same symbol that had appeared on their screens now accompanied her transmission. High Commander Zelthor, she said calmly. I believe it's time we had another discussion about humanity's capabilities. On his rapidly deteriorating command deck, Zelthor watched the human woman's image with a mixture of rage and dawning comprehension. What have you done to our systems? We showed you the fundamental flaw in your thinking, Elena replied. You believe that standardization equals advancement, that uniformity equals strength. Humanity learned a different lesson through our evolution. Adaptation is the key to survival. As if to emphasize her point, several Arxian ships accidentally fired on their own vessels, their targeting systems hopelessly confused by the quantum fields and corrupted protocols. Your entire civilization runs on a single standardized system, Elena continued. Elegant, efficient, and catastrophically vulnerable. While you were preparing your demonstration of force, we were demonstrating something far more important, the power of asymmetric warfare. You could have destroyed us, Zelthor realized, his scales shifting to the pale color of fear. All this time, we don't want to destroy you, High Commander. We want you to understand. Earth doesn't need your protection. We never did. What we want is peaceful coexistence, but that has to be based on mutual respect. Around the solar system, the Arxian fleet was in full retreat, their ships struggling to navigate with compromised systems. Their mighty synchronized weapon platform, which had been meant to demonstrate their overwhelming power, had become a monument to their own hubris. The virus in your systems can be removed, Elena said, and we're prepared to help you rebuild your networks, this time with better security protocols. Consider it a gesture of goodwill between equals. Zelthor was silent for a long moment, watching his dream of easy conquest crumble. The collective will need time to reconsider its position regarding Earth. Take all the time you need, Elena replied. We'll be here, and High Commander. Next time you encounter a supposedly primitive species, remember this day. Appearances can be deceiving. The transmission ended, leaving Zelthor staring at the chaos his fleet had become. In less than an hour, without firing a single traditional weapon, humanity had brought the mighty Arxian collective to its knees, and they had done it with a weapon the Arxians had never considered, the power of adaptation itself. 3 months after the failed demonstration, the observation deck of the International Space Station Harmony hosted a very different kind of meeting. Commander Elena Santos stood beside Dr. James Chen and Captain Sarah O'Neill, watching as the Arxian delegation approached in their newly designed shuttle, one that incorporated both their crystalline technology and human-inspired adaptive systems. High Commander Zelthor led the delegation, his scales now bearing the subtle gray markings of one who had survived a profound humbling. The Arxian leader had spent weeks explaining to the collective council how a supposedly primitive species had outmaneuvered their entire civilization. The new security protocols are integrating well, James reported, checking his quantum tablet. They're learning quickly, already implementing some of our adaptive architecture concepts into their systems. Amazing what a little humility can accomplish, Sarah remarked, watching the shuttle's approach. Their engineers are brilliant when they allow themselves to think outside their standardized box. Elena nodded. The aftermath of humanity's defensive operation had led to an unexpected period of rapid technological exchange. Once the Arxians overcame their initial shock and wounded pride, Their natural scientific curiosity had taken over. The airlock cycled, and the Arxian delegation entered. Zelfor approached the human team, his translator now modified to capture more nuanced expressions. "Commander Santos," he greeted, his scales shifting in what they now recognize as respectful acknowledgement. "Dr. Chen, Captain O'Neill, the Collective Council has reviewed your proposed cooperative defense initiative, and," Elena prompted, though she already suspected the answer. The past months had taught her to read Arxian body language quite well. "We accept," Zelfor said, "though I must admit, many in the collective still struggle to understand your species' approach to advancement. Why hide your capabilities? Why allow others to underestimate you?" Elena gestured to the viewport, where Earth hung like a blue jewel against the black of space. "Look at our world, High Commander. Humanity evolved on a planet that tried to kill us in 1,000 different ways. We weren't the strongest, the fastest, or the most naturally armed species. We survived and thrived because we learned to be adaptable, to be unpredictable, to use our minds as our primary weapon. And when we reached for the stars," Sarah added, "we carried those lessons with us. We watched other species, learned from their mistakes, and kept our true capabilities hidden until they were needed." James pulled up a holographic display showing the new hybrid technology their species were developing together. "Your civilization achieved greatness through standardization and unity of purpose. Ours came from diversity and adaptation. Together, we can create something greater than either approach alone." Zelfor studied the display, his multiple eyes taking in the complex integration of Arxian and human design philosophies. "We thought we were coming to protect a primitive species," he said quietly. "Instead, we found teachers." "Not teachers," Elena corrected. "Partners. The galaxy is vast and likely holds threats neither of our species has encountered yet. We'll face them better together than apart." The High Commander's scales shifted to a deep blue. A color they had learned indicated profound agreement. "The collective has already begun implementing the lessons we learned from our encounter. Our ships now carry adaptive systems. Our networks are no longer purely standardized. We're learning to be more like you. And we're learning from you as well," James pointed out. "Your crystalline computing architecture, once freed from the constraints of rigid standardization, has revolutionary potential. We've already incorporated some elements into our quantum systems." A soft chime indicated the arrival of another vessel, this one bearing representatives from 3 other spacefaring civilizations who had heard about the Arxian encounter with Earth and requested to join the diplomatic talks. "They all thought the same thing you did," Sarah said to Zelfor, watching the new ship approach. "That technological advancement only moves in one direction, that there's only one path to the stars. Now they're beginning to question those assumptions." "And that," Elena added, "is perhaps the most important lesson of all. The universe doesn't care about our preconceptions or our pride. It rewards those who can adapt, who can learn, who can overcome their own assumptions about what is possible." Zelfor turned to face the human team fully, his posture formal. "The Arxian Collective officially recognizes Earth not just as an equal, but as a civilization that has much to teach us. We look forward to exploring the stars together, learning from each other, and facing whatever challenges the galaxy presents as true allies." As they moved to greet the new arrivals, Elena caught sight of their reflection in the viewport. Humans and Arxians standing side by side, both species forever changed by their encounter. The galaxy had expected humanity to be another primitive civilization, slowly climbing the predetermined ladder of technological progress. Instead, they had demonstrated a fundamental truth. True advancement comes not from following a single path, but from being willing to forge new ones. The Arxians had learned the price of underestimation, but they had also gained something far more valuable: the understanding that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in power or technology, but in the ability to adapt, to innovate, and to surprise. In the depths of space, more ships were arriving, representatives of distant civilizations eager to learn from the species that had challenged their fundamental assumptions about technological progress. Humanity had revealed itself not through conquest or domination, but through innovation and strategic thinking. The age of humanity hiding its true capabilities was over. A new era of cooperative advancement was beginning, and the galaxy would never be the same.